Christmas is one of the high points on the calendar for Christians around the world. Families now face a dilemma whether to reunite despite the risk posed by the COVID-19 pandemic or play it safe and scale things down at the expense of tradition. Churches have, however, not been immune to all the changes that 2020 has brought. We are now joined by General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches, Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana, to discuss how the church will set its priorities this Christmas. Bishop Mpumlwana, thank you for joining us on the program this afternoon. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So with the holiday season upon us, Christmas masses traditionally are some of the most heavily attended services of the year. But just how different will church gatherings be this time around?
You know, we've had a very, very painful and difficult year. And the significance of Christmas is in that it is God identifying with the human condition. The Christ event is the actual experience of God becoming human so that the pains and the joys of being human are absorbed into God's situation. So it is therefore a very important one. But the reality is that the pains we have endured this year are the very pains that Christ is coming into. And therefore, we will have to do the celebrations in a manner that appreciates that we are in a state of war. If we had bombs flying around South Africa at this time, we would know to be cautious about how we exercise our joy of Christmas. And that's exactly where we are, except that the bombs are invisible. They are the virus. Yeah. Many churches, obviously, will be seeking to do the best they can under difficult circumstances. There are two things that people do most, and one of those is the Christmas Eve celebrations, which tends to be a vigil that cannot be done in the same way at this time. The second one is the large numbers of people coming together to celebrate, either to feast and to entertain. These two things have to be subdued because we have no choice, especially after the announcement of this new variant of the virus that was done by the minister on Friday with the scientists. It is clear that if we don't do that now, if we do not stick even more strictly with these non-pharmaceutical measures of distance, mask all the time outside, and washing our hands and sanitizing, as well as ventilation. And the ventilation one is going to be a greater challenge because unlike in the past when we believed that the danger is in the droplets that come from the mouth, we now know that the virus is airborne. You can smell if somebody is smoking in the room because this tobacco smells. But the virus does not smell, and it is exactly in the same way airborne in the room for several hours. So it is important that this is why we have to cover the nose so that we do not inhale the virus which is in the air. So all these things mean that the services at Christmas must be, in fact, if you can do them outdoors, even better. Have a celebration outdoors, because anything that is congestion of people inside is going to be a problem. That applies also to Christmas dinners and meals, because people come together, families come together. It is better to stay away in order, as the president said the other day, if we don't do this, this might be the last Christmas for many homes. And so it is important, therefore, that we just accept that we may have to make sacrifices and give up a lot of the things we want to do at Christmas in order to free up, to be able to free for Easter. Otherwise, Easter will come, we'll still be in the same position.
I want us to expand a bit on these practical steps that need to be taken. What are some of the practical considerations and recommendations for religious leaders and faith-based communities in the context of COVID-19?
It is to say, this whole thing really depends on us, you and me. And to the extent that in every ward in this country, you have no less than 10, 15 churches. My appeal would be that every congregation becomes a transmission for the right measures of behaving in COVID time. We must not look to government. We must look to our neighbors. When I ask you, how are you? It should be saying, how are you conducting yourself in COVID time? It should be to say, in my sermon, in my messaging, everywhere I go. It must be to say, why are you not wearing your mask? Where is your mask? Why do you not cover the nose when you wear it? Please keep your distance from me. And I do that not because I'm afraid of you. It's because I don't know if I'm a carrier. And because I don't know if I'm a carrier, I need to be concerned about your safety in my presence. And so everyone should say, I may be the carrier, because it is most infectious before you have symptoms. So I must not say that I'm healthy, I feel good. Actually, I might already be a carrier and infectious. And this is the message that churches should take out, everybody should take out, traditional leaders should take out, the Ndunas should take out, the shops, the businesses should be taken out. Everyone must be saying the same thing. This is the most important way of preventing the virus from killing. This is a killer virus. There was a song that we used to sing when we were young. It used to say, Lifigili gongongo, labatya bonke kwasala bababini, babezimele. Igongongo is some kind of ogre that kills people. It says it has arrived, it has eaten everyone up except two that were hiding. I am appealing that we should create the hiding mindset in order to save lives, because this virus wipes out families. I mean, we're dealing now with some of my relatives where whole families have been, 2, 3, 4 people, siblings have been taken away. We can prevent this only. We can prevent this only if you and I take the responsibility for my neighbor, for my fellow worshiper, and for the person next to me. Don't leave it to government. Make it your duty and your responsibility, and we shall live. But if we think that, especially for funerals, that what people are doing, they come in large numbers out of love, but this is love that kills. Let's please try to change our attitude in the way we do these things. Unfortunately, it's very, very bad culture, but I don't think we have a choice. We are at war.
Yeah. So, Bishop Bumlana, you say we are at war. Now, by sharing clear evidence-based steps to prevent COVID-19, churches can promote helpful information, prevent and reduce fear and even stigma, and also provide reassurance to the people in their communities and promote health-saving practices. How important is the church's role in this regard?
The church's role is important in that, when we are so besieged, we feel hopeless and like we cannot do anything about this. And what we're saying, that Christmas is important, because that's why I said at the beginning, it is God in Christ assuming the human condition and adopting the state of our anxiety and of our pains. Let us recover the sense of hope, but let us also know that this hope can only be fulfilled if we do the right thing. And I think the right thing is just keep to these rules. Yeah. Don't be in a crowd. Don't be. These are things that we must do and talk about all the time, but do so because we are at Christmas. Christmas is God in Christ becoming human, so that the human condition can become his condition. And we can only assist God in Christ if we do the right thing, because there is no choice.
Yeah. Let's now focus a bit on the role that churches and faith-based organizations can provide for pastoral and spiritual support during public health emergencies and other health challenges. How do you suggest that church leaders and their congregants advocate for the needs of the most vulnerable populations during this time?
There are 4 areas of concern that the churches and the religious organizations can deal with in this case. The first one is that for a lot of people, Christmas is about having something special to eat. And many will not have that opportunity. There are people who are homeless, there are people who are sick, there are people who are shut in who have nobody. And as I said before, every ward in this country has no less than 10 to 15 churches. We would hope that there would be some consideration for sharing something. And instead of my having a feast at my home because I like to bring the family around, I can prepare the same food and have it delivered through the local church to people in that are in need. So I think that That kind of charity is important because it enables people to feel that even in these difficulties, I can still find something useful, helpful for me. The second thing is that because of the depression that comes as a result of job losses and businesses collapsing, there is a desperate need for psychosocial support. Ministers and pastors are requested to try and be available as much as possible. We have tried, and I think we're going to be bringing up this again in the new year, to partner with the South African Depression Association so that we can have more trained professionals, because it doesn't follow that because a person who wears a dog collar like mine, therefore they are trained for counseling. It does not follow that. So we need to make sure that professional services are available. That's the second thing, though, that churches can do in this time, remembering that people are coming to Christmas without money to buy food, without money to buy presents, and all of these things have got an impact on their lives. Thirdly, there is the issue of domestic violence, which really has been soaring unhappily in the course of this COVID time. That there are broken families right now. There are people that can no longer live together. In fact, we're dealing at this time with a situation where a woman is so afraid of breaking out of the situation that she has allowed so much more of the pressure upon her. This is what the churches ought to be dealing with, particularly at Christmas time. And then the fourth thing is that students, especially matrics, some of them they're living with anxieties of what's going to happen. It's right after Christmas. The next focus is going to be matric results, and that is something that, again, because the year has been so bad, many children may not be able to do well, and it's going to need serious pastoral considerations, as well as ensuring that those that do celebrate their success must do so in a way that is contained within this environment. So there's a lot of work for churches to do during this time, and unfortunately, we don't have all the resources, especially because churches have lost revenues as a result of this. Large churches can no longer gather as they do it before, and this is a sore point for many of our churches at this time.
And lastly, and as we wrap up our conversation, what's your message to the church faithful during this time?
It is to say, we are at Christmas. Christ is God's gift to us. Christ is God's gift to us, and Christ becomes the recovery of God's image, which is an image of creativity. It is that creativity that gave the design of the universe that God has given us. But it is also the creativity that we have in God's image. And through this, we hope that we shall be able to find a vaccine that will enable us to survive this virus. And that vaccine, and we hope, as has already been controversially said, we must make sure that it is a virus, it is a vaccine that is wholly protected and has been properly assessed by the scientists. It is my hope, that between now and the arrival of a safe virus, a vaccine, we shall do what we need to do. And it is an appeal. You and I, my neighbor and everyone else, let us stay in the hope of Christ, but make sure that we do so in a way that is responsible. Thank you.
That was Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana, the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches.